Tonight, as hope for coronavirus treatment rises, shops across the country prepare to open.
We're going to limit the entries into the mall.
The latest on the push to jumpstart the economy. Plus,
it's very easy and safe to perform. Our data show that it's as accurate as having it performed in the doctor's office.
how a new test you can take from home is being used to diagnose frontline workers. And lockdowns and loneliness, the harmful effects of isolation during the pandemic. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
As the economy shrinks, unemployment grows. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Many economists believe the country may have shed as many as 34 million jobs since the middle of March.
And it's leading to a massive spike in jobless claims. New numbers from the Labor Department show 3.8 million additional unemployment applications last week. And in the 6 weeks since the outbreak began here, about 1 in 6 people have lost their jobs. About 30 million have sought jobless benefits in that time. And some economists forecast the unemployment rate for April could go as high as 20%. But as things begin to reopen, more Americans may be returning to work in the coming days.
That's right, Jenna. Those social distancing guidelines from the White House are set to expire today, and the president says he has no plans to renew them. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now. Ben, how's the president explaining his decision?
Well, John, President Trump says those guidelines are, quote, fading out and is now turning towards governors to decide what is best for their state. A fifth of the country has already eased restrictions, and joining the ranks is Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Idaho, Maine, Nevada, and Texas, the latest states to have their stay-at-home orders run out.
I think we're going to make a very strong comeback.
All retail stores in Alabama are allowed to reopen at 50% occupancy. Beaches in the Yellowhammer State are also open, with gatherings limited to no more than 10 people.
Reopening Alabama's economy is certainly not as simple as flipping a switch or snapping your fingers.
Some of the hardest hit states like New Jersey, with the second highest death rate from COVID-19, unveiled plans to slowly get back to normal, starting with state parks and golf courses this weekend at 50% capacity.
A big part of our ability to reopen as fast as we all want to is to rapidly expand testing.
Right.
And you all literally in the here and now this week are helping us in a big way.
Governor Murphy thanked President Trump in the Oval Office Thursday for his quick response with ventilators and is now turning to Washington again for help.
The financial assistance we need, and we need a significant amount. This is a big hit, and this is somewhere in New Jersey alone could be $20 to $30 billion.
One state over in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced subways will now be shut down at night to disinfect trains. On the West Coast, beaches in California are closed after crowds hit the sand last weekend. Nevada's governor plans to keep the Las Vegas Strip shut down.
The opening of the casinos and the gaming enterprises will probably come in the third or fourth phase of what we're going to end up doing here, because we're just not quite ready yet to handle that type of a volume.
The CDC has new guidance to disinfect and clean schools if states decide to go forward with summer classes. That includes wearing masks, social distancing, and even staggering staff. John, Jenna?
All right, thanks, Ben. Here with us now is California Congressman Khanna. Congressman Khanna, thank you for being with us. You saw those latest unemployment figures. 3.7 million Californians have filed for unemployment in the last 7 weeks. What can be done right now for so many people who are struggling and suffering, trying to make ends meet?
Well, John, it's been devastating. I mean, small businesses have been going out of business in my district. Many people are contacting us saying they're out of work, they need help. First, I think we need another stimulus package that puts more checks into the hands of Americans. They got a $1,200 stimulus check. They need another check. The government has told them they can't go to work. We need to provide them with some economic assistance. And then we need to rebuild the economy. We need to make the investments that are going to put people back to work.
Congressman, California is locking down beaches and state parks as many other states are beginning to open up for business. What, in your opinion, is the right approach to jumpstart this slumping economy?
Well, I think this is why we have federalism. I mean, the approach that may be right for my district may not be right in some rural community. And I do agree that the governors and the mayors should make context-specific decisions for their community. Once we start to reopen, I think there are two things we need. We need, as Dr. Fauci has said, massive testing, about 7 million tests a week, so that we can isolate those people who are sick. And then we need to invest, in my view, in the manufacturing capability of this country. Why is it that the United States of America was unable to make masks, unable to make ventilators? I mean, that manufacturing shouldn't be in China. It should be here. And Republicans and Democrats should come together to build the manufacturing capability in our nation.
Congressman, the last time you were here, you talked about protections for essential workers. I know tonight you're participating in a town hall highlighting how the pandemic exacerbates racial disparities. What type of guarantees are you looking for in the next phase of aid? And I guess the next logical question is, will there be one?
Well, common sense protections. I mean, I, like many people, get Amazon packages. But here's the fact. I mean, those Amazon packages are being prepared by workers who are putting themselves at risk at warehouses or on those who are driving trucks. All I'm saying is, A, they deserve hazard pay. They should be paid for the work they're doing, the risks they're taking. And B, they should have protection, masks, gloves, social distancing, so they're not putting themselves and their families at risk. I'm hopeful this will be part of the next stimulus package.
Congressman, while we have you here, I do want to ask you about Joe Biden and these latest sexual assault allegations that he's facing. You know, in the age of Me Too, a lot of his supporters say we believe women and they need to come forward and tell their stories. Now, though, some of the same people are saying we believe Joe Biden. Congressman, is this a double standard?
Well, it's a fair question. Here's what I would say. I think Tara Reade has every right to tell her story. I listened to her podcast. I'd encourage people to go listen to her and then give her a fair hearing and then make the determination. And ultimately, it's for the public to decide. But what I have always said is that women who come forward deserve to be heard, and they deserve to be heard respectfully.
All right, Congressman Ro Khanna from California, thank you for joining us today. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, drug maker Gilead says it hopes to produce enough remdesivir to treat millions by the end of the year. That comes after new trial data show encouraging results in patients with COVID-19. Those who took the drug recovered 31% faster than patients who were given a placebo. Fewer deaths also were reported for those taking remdesivir opposed to the placebo.
Widespread testing is another critical piece in getting the country back to business. One option, FDA approved self-testing done at home. Here's CBN's Mark Martin.
We've all seen reports of long lines and frustration from consumers as they waited for drive-through testing. Part of that is due to the test requirements.
We have a 3-stage process where we are doing a verbal triage to see what their symptoms are, see if they meet criteria for the testing, and if they do, then they will be registered, seen by a provider, and then they will have the test done.
Another option in several states is called a drive-up self-swab nasal test, offered at drugstores like Rite Aid, overseen by their pharmacists. Now there's an opportunity to test yourself at home. The FDA approved this diagnostic test designed by LabCorp.
It's very easy and safe to perform. Our data show that it's as accurate as having it performed in the doctor's office or in a clinic. They can perform the test, put it in the tube of saline, and overnight it back to the lab, and then get the results thereafter from LabCorp.
CBN News also reached out to LabCorp. The company did not respond to our inquiry, but it did release a statement saying that the self-test will help prevent the risk of transmitting the virus to others, and it will also reduce the demand for personal protective equipment because a clinician is not required. LabCorp will make the kits initially available to frontline healthcare workers and first responders. Its goal is to make the test available to the public in the coming weeks. The $119 price tag could be an issue, but LabCorp says it will work with customers and health insurance companies so folks don't have to pay up front. LabCorp also notes that its at-home test does not detect antibodies or immunity. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson explains the difference.
Because the antibody test, a lot of people are confused about it because you hear testing. There are two main tests. One of them is the test to see if you have COVID-19 right now. The other is the antibody test, also called the antigen test, which tells you whether you ever had it. And that is so important because an estimated 60% of people who had COVID-19 had no symptoms. They never even knew they had it.
If you test positive with the antibody test, Johnson says you probably now are immune to COVID-19. And doctors believe people with antibodies may be key to treating the most critically ill. These former patients are donating plasma after they recover. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Thanks, Mark. As we discussed earlier in the show, pressure is mounting for Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden to address a sexual assault allegation dating back to his tenure in the Senate. The former vice president's campaign has denied the staffer's accusation. As the calls grow louder for Biden to speak out, the Washington Post editorial board said voters deserve to hear directly from the presumptive Democratic nominee.
And here now to discuss, CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. David, Joe Biden, he still has yet to address this allegation. Does he need to say something here?
Oh, 100%. I'm sorry, my bad. 150%. And he will say something eventually. And I think eventually is going to be sooner rather than later. I mean, look, ultimately, Joe Biden is going down a big danger path here. We know about this, right? Hashtag Me Too. And the Democrats specifically have been really talking about this, especially since the Kavanaugh hearing. So I don't see how Joe Biden can not only not talk about this, but even once he talks about it, the big question is the media just going to let this go? My guess is they probably will. That could be a problem. But I'll tell you what, I think there's a lot more coming on this.
David, Biden, like most candidates, can't hold live events with rallies and with crowds. Instead, he's doing a lot of virtual town halls and fundraisers. He had the online forum with Hillary Clinton the other day. How's he faring in the race for the White House?
Yeah, that online forum with Hillary Clinton didn't go too well at the beginning. 20 seconds of literally pause at the beginning, them looking and staring into the camera. Yeah, not a good visual. But then after that, she endorsed him. So, yay for them. Look, I think Joe Biden here has one clear tactic, and that is to push big government. That's right. I said it, push big government. And not normally you wouldn't push big government necessarily. But in this case, I think Joe Biden probably needs to go all in at this point. Look, he's been a senator since what? Reconstruction? It's been a long time, 40 years or so. He needs to say, look, I know how to handle a big global pandemic because I know government really, really well. And I think that would actually bode well for him. So I think that is probably what you're going to see more in these next few days, weeks, and months ahead.
David, the Washington Post is reporting that the president was presented with some pretty grim internal polling, showing him actually losing to Biden. Will this affect the president's daily briefings?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think they're going to scale it back. And they also see the Gallup poll numbers, 43%. That's his approval rating. That's down from 49%, which was as high just about a month or two ago. So, yeah, they see the numbers. They understand that, you know what, Mr. President, maybe you should stop talking after about 20 to 30 seconds rather than a minute and a half to 2 minutes for every single answer. Economy of words, trust me, I've learned that. And I think a lot of us would probably have rather stop speaking about 30 seconds before we actually did.
Good advice. David, in terms of campaign promises, Biden now says if elected, he'd leave the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem there in place. Could that potentially backfire with the Democratic base? And we'll give you a little more than 30 seconds.
Oh, I get more than 30 seconds. Thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see it in my check. Yeah, no, I think this is going to be a big problem with Democrats because, and this is a major problem for Joe Biden because, look, let's just be honest. Can we just between the three of us and everybody watching? Joe Biden, this is what Joe Biden really does want to do. He wants to keep the embassy in Jerusalem. Look, he's a moderate, he's a center-left guy in his heart of hearts. The problem is he's been pulled so far to the left that he's going to get a lot of pushback on this, and then he's going to have to do the dance, the yin and the yang. And if he's going to be dancing all the way till November 2020, good luck with that. Donald Trump will expose that, and that's big problems for Joe Biden ahead.
David, just about 30 seconds left here, but any feeling for who he may nominate for VP?
Yeah, really hard to say at this point. He said all along it was going to be a woman. Well, now that takes on a whole different situation or a different analytical calculation based on the fact that the Tara Reade allegations have come forward. Having said that, I think Elizabeth Warren clearly is in the running. Watch for Stacey Abrams. I think she could be also. And then, of course, we've talked about Amy Klobuchar as well if you want to go centrist. I think if he picks Amy Klobuchar, it's because he's made a calculation that he's going to go far left and go for the AOC Bernie folks of the world. And that's why he needs Klobuchar to his right flank. We'll see. I'm thinking Elizabeth Warren at this point. But then what do I know? I don't know. Ask me later. Do I have 30 more seconds?
David, we do have to leave it there. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Coming up, the African American community's battle against COVID-19. Why it's been especially brutal.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God, even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening. My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Welcome back. A new report out today exposes racial disparities playing out as a result of the pandemic. And those statistics show African Americans are more at risk. Jenna?
Tonight, a stark example from Richmond, Virginia, where 93% of coronavirus deaths are African American. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more. Eric?
Well, Jenna, Richmond, Virginia has seen about 300 confirmed cases, 15 deaths. 14 of them have been African Americans. And so I spoke with the health department director here in Richmond, who says that he blames it on 3 things: exposure, predisposition to the disease because of pre-existing conditions, and also history.
For the past 2 weeks, a push for free testing in Richmond's predominantly black and brown communities.
Please show up. We're begging you to.
Officials recognize it's crucial.
Because of the specific burdens and barriers that are placed in front of our black brothers and sisters.
Richmond Health Director Danny Avula says this multi-layered problem begins with exposure.
The residents of our black community are working jobs that they have to show up to every day. And in many cases that they're having to rely on public transportation to show up to.
Just being there puts them at higher risk. And then Avula points out once they're infected, health issues like diabetes, hypertension, and chronic lung disease become a major factor.
The black community typically has higher rates of those chronic diseases, which means that when they get infected with COVID-19, they are going to feel this in a different way.
Avula goes even further, explaining why history plays a role in why African Americans suffer higher rates of those chronic diseases.
We know that because of institutional and systemic racism, the idea that African Americans for decades and centuries in this country have been subjected to greater scrutiny, to greater stress. We know the data shows that African Americans have higher circulating levels of stress hormones. My Black friends describe the anxiety about being pulled over in a much different way than I've ever experienced.
That stress, Avula says, goes beyond the health conditions to include a distrust toward health and other government officials.
Social media just get cranked up immediately saying, hey, we don't need you to come in and experiment on us. We're not your guinea pigs. Don't come in and give us COVID-19. Black communities have a long history of being mistreated and experimented on by government and by healthcare.
Richmond serves as just a microcosm of what's happening throughout the country.
Avula says this is nothing new. It's simply an existing problem magnified by this pandemic. And this time, however, the stakes are even higher because the disease is so contagious and deadly. Jenna and John, back to you.
All right, thank you, Eric. The dangers of loneliness. Up next, how should the church respond to the hardships brought on by social distancing?
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back. Well, one effect of prolonged lockdown is isolation, and that can pour fuel on 2 major societal issues: loneliness and porn addiction.
That's right, Jenna. It's a topic Christian author Josh McDowell has been researching, and he talked to our Paul Strand about what he found.
Even before the pandemic, Josh McDowell found one main affliction affecting people.
All research showed the #1 epidemic globally in every country of the world was loneliness.
It hits colleges especially hard, with 2/3 of students feeling very lonely. That can be as hard on your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness can also lead to higher rates of death, illness, injury, smoking, obesity, and high blood pressure. And McDowell says this all feeds into porn addiction.
And that's what we have during the COVID-19. That's why we're going to have a huge explosion of porn when we come out of this crisis.
Even before the lockdowns, research showed high rates of Christian men and women seeking out porn online across age groups, with an astounding 81% of those ages 13 to 24. Even 57% of pastors and 64% of youth pastors admit struggling with porn. Yet only a small number of churches have any anti-porn program. McDowell warns that must improve, and churches should prepare to deal with more than just porn.
Pastors better be ready to address loneliness, depression, anxiety, and mental health.
He expects, however, that many suffering from these issues won't seek help from the church.
Now, we're going to see a resurgence of spiritual interest, not so much in the church. And we're going to see a greater desire emphasis on home meetings and small groups.
So I guess what you're saying is more than just the pastors, all of us that are meeting in small groups and all that, we all need to be able to minister to our brothers and sisters in Christ and those that may be coming in out of their renewed interest in spiritual things.
That's why I'm putting on my website, josh.org, how to deal with loneliness, depression, anxiety, everything.
And also look there for Josh's 10 challenges to the church. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Paul. Drive-through graduation. We'll explain when we return.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Well, finally tonight, for most high school seniors, social distancing means they won't be able to walk across the stage to receive their diplomas, but that isn't stopping one California school, Jenna, from letting grads at least look the part.
They held a cap and gown drive-through for students, letting them pick up what they would have worn at graduation.
You know, it feels great knowing that there are people that really care about the seniors and all the students at these schools.
We have also purchased for all of our kids a sign that they can put in their house or in their window or on their lawn just to remind them how much we miss them.
And school staff cheered on the graduates, and even though they couldn't walk across the stage, many students said they were grateful to be able to at least have their cap and gowns. John, it's tough for these 2020 graduates.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for watching Faith Nation.